we talk about transparency. That PR-ese, as useless as some of it might be, it demonstrates, at least to the audience, that we asked a question. We sought that comment. It's not as though we would be able to say that they didn't provide a comment. They provided one. It was just we didn't deem it worthy of putting in the story.
Well, I think that's a good point.
How do we write to that?
Well, you can. I think it depends on the situation.
Yeah.
But I think very limit what they say. And I think it's okay to characterize it as a non-answer answer. I think we also have to be better about following up and saying, well, what does that mean? What do you mean by that?
Exactly. Which is something I bring up all the time.
You didn't find any documents? Does that mean, when did you turn them over?
Yeah.
Really get
push
specific.
harder for clarification.
Yes, exactly.
And that's one of the things that I think that I see as a problem with our journalism, and a lot of it has to do with we're always trying to make a deadline. I mean, it's not like you're making a deadline for the evening news.
Right. It's almost like we don't even have deadlines anymore because it's now.
You got to get it up, and so whatever statement happens to come out, I'm going to go with this because then I'm able to meet my deadline. Whereas you should stop and go like, wait a minute, you just said this, but that didn't really answer my question. What did you mean by this? And push a little bit harder to get that information. And then if you don't get it, then you stand on much more solid ground to say the administration provided this, but it didn't really answer the question and get to the point of what's actually going on.
Well, and can I just say one thing about the White House press corps? Please. It's Mike McCurry, who was the press secretary for Bill Clinton, has said publicly numerous times the worst decision he ever made was televising the press briefings. And I think most reporters would agree with that, although they wouldn't say so publicly, because it has become a grandstanding thing, and the reporters could do a better job if they followed up on each other's questions. But no, their bosses have told them, make sure you get this question in, or make sure you get that question in, or they have a story that they want to preen about. And I think it behooves us as journalists to put the ego to one side. As the great Jim Lehrer always used to say, it's not about you. Yeah. And follow up on your colleague's question if you feel like the press secretary isn't giving you an answer. The press secretary's job is to make the boss look good. And your job is to find out things.
Exactly.
So
I mean, that's the thing that bugs me is, why do you want to get mad at the press secretary for doing exactly what Kathy just said, which is trying to make her boss look good and to make sure that whatever comes out isn't too harmful to him or her, right?
I mean, that's literally what their job is.
That's literally what their job is, and then you want to go after them and say, well, they're the worst, blah, 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 blah. Well, they're doing their job. You're mad because they're pretty good at it.
Maybe you're the worst. Maybe you're the one that's the worst. I'd like to see, and I realize we play a huge role in this, that our student journalists break out of some of the generational traps that have been built in there of, well, I emailed them, they emailed me back this statement, I have it, that's all I have. Where we're not having those opportunities and they're not as assertive in asking some of those follow-up questions. And so I know that's something we are working on here with the implementation of some news conferences at some of our courses on the lower level where students are getting some of that practice and listening to what other students are asking of spokespeople in our area here to try and do that and to be a little bit better about that.